And finally, we are previewing the WTA from Switzerland, from Lausanne. Some great matches also there. A huge comeback, a great comeback from Fiona Ferro today against Mihaela Buzărnescu, another Romanian player with let's say, not struggling mentally sometimes, but let's say that she's not constant at all. She had 6-1, 5-2, and she managed to lose the match. I don't understand how that is possible sometimes, but with Buzărnescu, you can expect this kind of matches. She's very inconsistent. That's why we have her out of the tournament right now, and we have Caro Garcia at 4.5, and we have Bernarda Pera at 4.5 again, Alize Cornet at 4.33. Garcia playing.
Sorry, Garcia is out. Probably
Garcia,
that
Garcia
hasn't
yes,
updated the odds.
Yeah. Pera just beat her 2-0 earlier. Yesterday, I think 6-2, 6-4. Yes. So this is why we have Bernarda Pera right now as favorite. I really don't understand why we don't have Alize Cornet as favorite in this tournament. Yes, you will have a difficult match against Vikliatseva tomorrow in the quarterfinals. But 6.5 with Betfred right now on Alize Cornet should represent some value here. Again, I will not speak myself. I'm not playing these tournaments. I'm just playing that Kristina Pliskova 2-0 against Tig tomorrow. I will let the pros handle it. So, Joao, outrights or favorite plays from the quarterfinals, please.
This is a very tricky tournament. As I mentioned before, altitude has an influence on the game conditions, and Lausanne is around 500 meters above sea level, so the conditions are quite faster than compared to other tournaments, like for example Bostad, which is at sea level. You can see a huge difference in the ball speed when the players hit. So this is a tricky tournament to approach, as I mentioned. I think that Alize Cornet is having a great week. She struggled with her form in the start of the year, but this has been a good tournament for her. She's a great defender, and tomorrow it's going to be an interesting matchup against Vikliatseva, as you mentioned. Cornet is too favored in my opinion. I think she'll get the win, but the current price around 147, 150 is not enough in my opinion. But I think that she has a great chance on this tournament, and also tomorrow, because she's a great counterpuncher, good defender, and against the Russian, although she has the firepower, but will have a tough task against the French, the defense skills. But overall, this tournament for me is a pass. I think that the conditions are very tricky, and as you see, most of the favorites are losing, huge surprises. The conditions are 90%, if you want to say, when you're playing tennis. Things can change completely from week to week depending on when you're playing. And tennis players are always moving from one tournament to the other, have like 2 days to adjust. And playing on altitude takes time, not only for the players to adjust to the game conditions, but also the body to adjust to the difference of air density. So this kind of tournaments on altitude, I usually try to avoid them, and this is one of those cases.
So you heard the specialist. He's skipping this tournament. It's very tough to adapt from week in and week out. From the difference of weather, difference of time, let's say, difference of altitude. So he will skip this tournament, but maybe the other pro, Snice, has something for this tournament. Me personally, I think that Joao convinced me to play Cornet 2-0 against Vikliatseva tomorrow at 2.2.
Yes, as Joao said there, this is a tournament played at altitude, and those are always tricky for the players to adapt, especially so in the week after a Grand Slam, with some players coming in trying to play from the grass to a clay. So the transition is tough there. But I do have some bets here for our matches. We've had a surprise run here of lucky loser Chinese player Xing Yun Han. who certainly made the most of her opportunity. She's beaten Gracheva and Samsonova as huge underdogs in 2 straight matches here. I think Bernarda Pera has looked great here in this tournament. She dumped out Caroline Garcia, the number 2 seed, in straight sets, despite only hitting 42% of her first serves, won 81% of the points behind that first serve. So she's looked dominant, and she's won both of her matches easily in straight sets, and with a step down in competition, with a lucky loser of 2 huge upset wins, I think it will be very tough for Shin Yun Han to step up yet again and perform as a huge underdog here. So I've gone ahead and played the under 18.5 games at 1.95. I think Pera wins this, and I think she wins it 6-3, 6-3 or better. In the other match, another play that has been making some strides is Sam Stosur. I think that this tournament being played at altitude helps her. She has a really big serve. She has huge ground strokes. And she's come through both of her matches here. I think that Fiona Ferro's serve is certainly one that a powerful Aussie can match. It can be vulnerable. It can be shaky. I watched her, obviously, a different tournament, but at Båstad, especially against Kawa, she was bullied around in a 6-0, 6-2 loss. And I think that facing a powerful player like Stosur can provide results like that. So I think this matchup is pretty good for Stosur. I've gone ahead and played her to win that match at 1.67. And then finally, I think this draw has opened up for Alice Cornet. She will have a tough match tomorrow against Vikliantseva. But I do think that she will be able to get through this. She's looked very good in this tournament here with 2 straight sets victories. And Vikliantseva isn't a player that I hold in the same regard as Cornet when she's playing well. They have split the head-to-head matchups, which is a bit of a concern because it's probably going to be tight. But I still think that Cornet will prevail here, so I've gone ahead and played her to win. Minus 3.5 games. I usually don't do 2-0s in the WTA because it is likely to drop a set, and the spread can still hit even if you go 3 sets. So yeah, I think we have Cornet through with a bit to spare here on the games.
Okay, that's about it from our tennis coverage this week. We previewed 4 tournaments, quarterfinals from all 4, some outright bets, some very nice informations, what to look for when to bet before, what to check the weather, the altitude, and so on. You can see that also on Odds Market. Joao is writing some incredible articles on that specific thing. Some complete guides how to bet on tennis, some analysis, some players profiles, and every week many betting tips from the tournaments going on that week. See you guys next week. I don't know if we will see Joao next week. I hopefully we will see him. Anyway, we'll discuss.
We'll try.
Yeah, we'll discuss later on or tomorrow the schedule for next week. ATP Hamburg, Gstaad, Atalanta, and WTA Palermo next week. Thank you very much, guys, for joining me. Best of luck with your bets, and see you next week.